Right, so welcome to Dead Stuff. We're back again. Jake, Kev.
Hey!
Yep.
Hello, hello, hello. Right, what's everyone up to? Because I haven't seen Jake for a while. What have you been doing?
Oh, God knows. Too much.
Too much work.
Yeah.
Well, you've been working. You've had problems at work, haven't you?
Yes.
Some naughty people.
Yes, although it's highly confidential, can't talk about it.
Yeah, but it's not been good, has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing loads of TikTok videos. People,
Hey.
yeah, like concentrating at the moment on just crazy facts about different people.
But aren't you worried that the Chinese government have got all your data now?
Yeah.
They're using it.
They got my fingerprints.
Oh my God, you'd be blackmailed in 10 years' time.
Well, I told you before about Mike the Durable. Well, if you check my TikTok out anyway, it's Dead Stuff on TikTok.
Yeah, lots of little adverts in it and prompts and funny facts.
Yeah, funny facts, killers' last words and stuff. It's all quite interesting. All really short videos as well, so you can just watch quite a few of them. But yeah, we got Mike the Durable, alcoholic ex-fireman who became homeless. Basically, 5 of his mates took life insurance policies out on him, tried to kill him, tried to poison him, drown him, freeze him, and run him over, and he still didn't die.
I mean, it doesn't sound good, does it?
What's your name? Mike the Durable.
Well, yeah.
Mike the Durex.
That's a sex toy.
But yeah, eventually he did die from carbon monoxide.
Imagine trying to claim that.
Yeah.
No, so say that again. Yes, me and my 4 friends, we decided to take out a life insurance policy on our mate, just in case he should die, like 8 weeks ago.
And this was in the 30s where the Depression was going on, so
it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
they would have known. Yeah, it's a bit fishy, like. But yeah, there's a few more like famous last words and stuff. I said before about can't remember her name now, but she got hanged and she said, "Oh, for the sake of decency, fellas, can you not hang me too high?" I was like, "Oh, hello."
Avert your eyes.
But yeah, so I've been doing those quite often because consistency is key. I found.
Yeah, they're
on
good
TikTok.
because they're popping up on my Facebook and I share them.
And I've noticed as well, if you follow me, say, it'll notify you when I put up a new video. So that's quite cool because it does it with other people I follow.
Yeah.
But I'm getting more engagements with each video, and as long as I do at least one a day, it seems to be going quite all right. Like, so
Yeah,
if you want to check it out. But in the meantime, I'm going to be putting stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because that's just another platform that people do use all the time. Like, I'd use it all the time.
Mate.
And it's got the Reels stuff now rather than just the main videos.
I've been watching this geezer called Mini Minute Man on YouTube.
Minute Man.
Yeah, he debunks all these conspiracy theories. He's an archaeologist and environmental scientist.
Oh, is this the Milo?
Yeah, that's it.
The one with the long hair that we watched last night?
Yeah, he's quite fascinating. Mini Minute Man.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's quite fascinating. He's an intelligent.
Young.
He's a young guy, intelligent kid. He'd obviously be an incredible history teacher.
Yeah. Really articulate, quite funny.
Yeah, and it's just great science. It's all about science.
Because I will be honest, we watched a bit last night, and there was probably half of it I was like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But it's interesting still. You're like,
Fascinating.
oh, right, okay. But you can see he fires off all this stuff, writing on a chalkboard, and it's like, and he says, oh, for a guy in his early 20s, and I was like, oh my God, he's like 21, and he's very smart,
Yeah,
isn't
he's
he?
very smart.
Really engaging, like
Very smart
Yeah,
guy.
Mini
Minute Man.
Why is he called that?
I think the Minutemen was some kind of American militia. Is that right? The
Yeah,
Minutemen.
back in the Civil War.
Yeah. So
Oh, here we go. They were American. Just look at Jake. Come on, Jake, tell us.
Yeah,
all.
Jake knows. Jake knows everything about
Automatically.
All I know is that
America.
we kicked your ass in the Civil War.
Oh,
It's the wrong war. Revolutionary War.
Revolutionary
Wrong
War.
yeah.
Actually, no, I think it was from the Revolutionary War, not the Civil War.
Yeah, independence.
Yeah,
War of
yeah,
Independence.
War of Independence,
And the biggest holiday in the world, allegedly, is independence from Great Britain.
The biggest holiday in the world.
Yeah.
How do you
it's
measure that?
celebrated in more countries. You know, like you have Independence
Oh,
Day.
yeah.
Well, it's that Independence Day from Great Britain is one of the most celebrated holidays across the globe.
Is it?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Because everyone hates England.
Because everybody's like, well, a lot of people were once kind of like, you know,
Hey,
reigned
World War II.
under
World
the
War
cosh
II.
of the empire.
You're welcome.
Ooh. Right.
We should just declare war now.
Come on,
There's
then.
2 of us.
I think we've already have somewhere. In the
Yeah.
past hour, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, whose side would you take?
China.
Yeah,
fair.
we're all Chinese. Yeah. Do you like that cup of tea?
That was very nice. I drank I might need a wee soon, but I'll hold in.
Earl Grey. English breakfast.
Just good.
Just good bog standard English
good tea. Proper tea.
Builder's tea.
Darjeeling.
I find that a bit weird, man.
English
and
breakfast.
English breakfast is nice.
Yeah, I like that one.
Oh, great.
Do you drink tea?
No, I can't stand the taste of it.
Coffee?
Yeah, coffee. Yeah. Nice strong coffee.
I'm the other way around. Like, I love the smell of coffee, but bleh.
I actually mostly drink coffee. I hardly ever drink tea. But I drink a lot of tea today.
I don't drink a lot of it, but like when I do, I'll have like 3 or 4 cups and I won't drink one.
It's more
for about a week.
refreshing tea.
Yeah.
I like an iced tea, cold tea. I wouldn't drink a hot tea though.
I don't think I've ever tried iced tea. It's always put me off just because it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it's American, isn't it? Sounds weird.
Yeah.
Easy.
Cold tea.
We're ganging up on him now.
Easy.
Cold tea.
Turn this fucker off now.
Tea. Cold.
Tea. Oh God.
What? And you have a bit of it. Ooh, it's quite nice.
Right, who are we talking about today, Kev?
Aileen
Wuornos. Born Aileen Carol Pittman. Everyone will know her as they call her the first American female serial killer.
Yeah, in a non-caring role.
That's it, yeah. Which I thought, I was like, yeah, that's fascinating, actually.
What does that mean?
Because I reckon there'd have been nurses or female healthcare assistants that may have killed women.
Oh, like
in that kind of
okay.
Like adoption agency, yeah. Or even just carers, like
carers. I mean, that happened last year in Britain. That nurse was accused of killing 9
Lucy
babies
Letby
or something.
Yeah.
Grim. Now I've got a lot of empathy for this Aileen because I think when you get to hear her story, but yeah,
I'm the same.
Poor, terrible childhood.
Yeah, I think I was for years the type of person that would just you'd breeze over her story and go, oh no, it wasn't self-defense. She was just a psychopath. Yeah, she went to death row, whatever. And it's not. There's a lot more to it because her childhood was really horrific.
Yeah.
Really, like to the point where she didn't get a break.
No,
at all.
If she was like living, for example, in UK nowadays, she was a kid. She'd been put in care. She'd have been put in care at the age of say,
it'd be nipped in the bud,
8 or 9.
wouldn't it?
It would have been nipped in the bud, and she wouldn't have hopefully had that awful upbringing for the trauma.
Yeah.
But obviously back then, over there wasn't really that kind of safety net of
and this
social
was
care, the welfare state.
1956 when she was born, and from day one, it was game over for her.
Yeah.
So that long ago.
You what?
It's that long ago.
Yeah, that was when she was born.
When she was born, was it the late 50s?
Yeah, 1956 she was born.
I guess, yeah.
So in the 60s, basically, she was getting abused.
I just saw the YouTube videos. They seem more recent than.
Yeah, well, this is that later on. I think it was the 80s was a kind of spree when she started.
I think she hitched to
Colorado, then Florida.
Yeah, about 72.
She was from
about 72 when she was 16, 17.
So she's from Michigan, and where she lived in this community, it was a tight-knit community, and she would... Well, we'll start from the beginning, really, because from the very beginning, I find this fascinating anyway. Her mum gave birth to her at 15, 14, something like that, and gave her up after 6 months. Her dad was already in prison for... abusing an 8-year-old boy.
And he may have been involved in the murder of a child as well.
Yeah, so she never knew her dad anyway.
He was also diagnosed schizophrenic and hung himself in prison.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, well, if the mum got together with him when she was 14, who introduced him to her?
Yeah.
Because we know that the grandfather was an abuser.
Yeah.
Later went on to abuse Aileen.
Yeah, so the parents are gone.
Yeah. And
the grandparents took him on.
Yeah, but often, I mean, you hear about terrible things such as paedophilia rings, but it does often happen. She was, her brother as well was involved in her abuse. It's just. Ugh.
It's the most unfortunate upbringing because, you hear about sexual abuse and whatever, and it is quite common, but like the whole family, basically, she had nowhere to go. So her granddad was abusing her. Her brother apparently abused her.
Who was 2 years older.
Yeah. And when she got older, early teens onwards, she would, for money, do sexual acts on local boys. So all she did was get used and abused from birth, basically.
Yeah, and like nowadays, like if this was within a care system in modern times, we'd know that child would be engaging in what would be known as sexually harmful behaviour. And there'd be intervention. Now, a lot of kids who are abused can go on to illustrate sexually harmful behaviour. Because
Well, they
it's
said that,
learned, it's taught, they've seen other people do it.
Was it that when the abused become the abuser?
Yeah,
Type thing.
absolutely. Because sometimes, an abused kid, okay, well, I think my mum and dad must love me because that's what mum and dads do. But my mum and dad display their love in this fucked up way, abuse. And then as a kid gets older, then sometimes, even though it's subliminal and that they're not thinking it, it's kind of like submerged.
It's a normal thing.
They,
for them.
their expression of love could be, also abusive because that's what they were taught and grew up with.
Yeah.
And it sounds very much like Aileen.
Yeah. And so from this point, she was getting abused by her brother and her granddad and sexual trading for money around the community.
And beaten by her granddad.
And beaten constantly. And apparently he would make her get naked as well whilst he did it. So there's obviously a sexual element to that as well.
And that was witnessed by a neighbour, a daughter, a girl.
Yeah, and this is on documentaries we'll watch where they were on it saying we saw it.
Yeah, and the way she describes it, you can almost see this other kid like reliving her witnessing it.
Yeah.
And I've got it written down here. I mean, it's only a little quote. He beat the hell out of her. That's what she said. He beat the hell out of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this just gets me again because it just keeps getting worse for her. So as a teen, I think she was 14 and got pregnant. And she said she was raped. And according to one of her best friends, this documentary we've watched, he said that there was a local paedophile that would just have all parties with all these young kids. And it's claimed to have been him. So he's got her in the house, raped her, she's got pregnant. She gave the baby up straight away for adoption. And then her granddad then kicked her out the house.
Yeah, and between those things happening, she was, further shunned by her kids. She was already shunned by the kids in her neighbourhood.
Yeah.
Kids in the neighbourhood. She was bullied.
No one liked her at all.
They all thought she was scum. And then, grandfather kicked her out, and she's living in the woods down the road.
Yeah, down the road from the house. And the horrible part is that bit where one of her friends said she would gather her money together, and she'd always drink, do drugs, and to get friends, she would say, "Oh, come to my house, I'll have a party for everyone." Then they would kick her out of the party,
of her own party.
So they're going, "Ha, we've used and abused you again."
Yeah. And yet again, she's been lit down by people, abused, bullied. It's it's like I think she never really had a positive relationship with somebody else, apart from maybe that one woman that said she was a childhood friend.
Yeah.
But it seemed every kind of positive relationship she tried to form was shit.
Yeah.
And she never had a positive relationship or experience with a primary caregiver. She was, abandoned at every turn.
Yeah.
And she must have hated everybody.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, she probably didn't have a sincere hug. Probably ever. Oh, well, until
ever.
Maybe later on.
But if she had, it would have been sexualised because, she was suffered at the hands of terrible sexual abuse.
But then again, like you said, she would have taken that as sincere because that was a normal thing for her.
Yeah, so that's what she's learned an expression of love, possibly.
Yeah, she couldn't have got, "Oh, hello, Aileen," and a kiss on the cheek without thinking they want to shag her. Yeah. And do horrible things to her, and she thinks that's normal, and that's the sad part, isn't it?
Yeah, and also during those experiences where when that's happening, maybe later on when she was a prostitute, as a kid, you often will, under trauma, you will relive the trauma you had as a kid. That gives you these awful reactions. You're unable to regulate emotions, and so if she's a prostitute. She was a prostitute, and then she was approached by a John who's going to harm her. She would be reliving that childhood trauma, and that might have happened again and again and again and again and again. Yeah,
you can't see her going into a car with a John and just doing it, and she probably did, but like you said, it would all flood back.
Yeah,
and she wouldn't have just gone, "Oh, Sam, I've got some money." She's thinking, I hate doing this, but she had nowhere else to go. And she, even according to the movie, I don't know how true it is, but she did try and get a legitimate job a few times, and they just looked at her and thought, ugh,
yeah,
because she had no qualification, nothing. She had nothing, but she was try hard, and she wanted to do something about her life. But people everywhere she turned, they looked at her like she was a piece of shit.
All of her life.
Yeah, all of her life, and like her mum abandoned her. She never knew her mum. And that documentary we watched, years later, Nick Broomfield on the documentary found her biological mother and this was probably about 20 years ago. Now she's probably dead, but she had absolutely no idea that she even got kicked out of the house in the beginning. Never mind, she was prostituting herself and getting raped and had a kid. And
yeah, when Nick Broomfield told Eileen's mum that Eileen was living in the woods at 16, you could see the mum was like...
Yeah, she was like, what? Like, it was the most horrific thing she'd heard. And it's like, you haven't heard the rest of this, you know. But she must have known when she gave up the baby, because she would have been abused by her dad.
Yeah, she was leaving that baby in an abusive relationship, an abusive household.
Yeah, and that's what I don't get.
And both the grandparents were alcoholics as well.
Yeah. But maybe, you know... we would never be in that situation, obviously, as a woman and leaving a baby, but in an abusive household. But she was obviously that traumatized and scared, the mum, that she would have done anything to get out of there. But and especially being like, she was 16 with a little baby, and she had nothing. But she would have left the baby behind. It would have got fed and whatever, but still things would have happened.
But then again, that mother, Eileen's mother, she would have suffered too the effects of, you know, early childhood trauma and, you know, sexual abuse, I think, from her father.
Yeah.
And so it's just intergenerational abuse, and it's awful.
It's the fact it still happens all the time today.
Yeah.
Well, like your job, you know, the outlines, you know, it's just not nice. So she's given up the baby, and like we said, she was shunned even more in her community. So she moved from Michigan to Colorado, was it? For a while, and she's prostituting.
Kind of living on the roads, hitchhiking up and down.
Yeah, she lived in back of people's cars, shitty motels if she could afford it. Then she moved to Florida because she found it eventually less judgmental, because a lot more people were doing it. More of a hippie lifestyle out there at the time in the 60s. This was probably in the 70s.
That's it. But by then, so this is 76 when she ended up in Florida.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
So between leaving home and 76, she was obviously involved in a bit of drugs, prostitution, hanging out with people that were taking LSD, according to some of the material we've looked at, and hanging out with motorbike gangs, kind of living on the edge. She had always been on the edge of society, so she probably felt like abandoned by mainstream society. Yeah. So it was easy for her to kind of live on the road, hang out with motorbike gangs, and she'd probably been very used to being with edgy people. Yeah. And now, and biker gangs in America are pretty fucking edgy.
And she probably would have had a bit. She felt like maybe she had a bit of security with all these dudes, because she probably got drunk with them.
Yeah, totally.
And got a place to stay.
And they're also on the edge of society.
Yeah.
So she would have felt an affiliation with them.
Yeah, because if you see, you know, like, you know, in America, you see in the films, or whatever, in documentaries I've seen, you do see like 100 dudes on bikes with big beards. You kind of automatically go, oh, what have they been up to? You know, so they're the edgy ones. Yeah. You know, so she could fit in with them.
Yeah, like I mean, a funny stereotype is when you see that in Britain, you know, they're all like computer programmers and data inputters.
Yeah, they're not bikers.
Yeah, but often in the States, it's not on the mark. I mean, I don't know whether this is just a stereotype, but some of them are pretty fucking hardcore.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. They did it right.
Jake? I think more back in the 70s, 60s, or whatever it was, was it Ken Kesey, whatever his name was?
Yes. I went to Richard, who wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He wrote a book about the Hells Angels.
I forgot his name.
Ken Kesey wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, but he was also involved with Hunter S. Thompson.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much it applies these days, but yeah, back in the 70s and 80s, it was pretty hardcore.
I was going to, Hells Angels.
Yeah, well, it's not... Yeah, Hells Angels are still pretty tough, pretty hectic in this country. If there's a biker gang in Britain that are heavy, it's...
Didn't Shrewsbury used to be a hub for a lot of bikers back in the day?
Yeah.
I know that from seeing old photos from the York, that used to be just about like you'd see all the Harleys outside from the set 60, 70.
And before that, it was the Bembo.
Was it?
Up on the hill.
I heard the Slopian as well was a pretty major biker pub,
right. Yeah. Oh, the Bembo's up by the Coach and Horses? Up the top.
Yeah, that one there.
Oh, right.
That was about in the early 80s. Shropshire's great for motorbikes because you've got these amazing roads.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Yeah, because my dad used to have a bike, and we'd go on a Sunday afternoon, and because it's Sunday afternoon, most people don't work, and there's fucking hundreds of them. Yeah. And they're all nodding at each other, and it's, on all nice country roads, you know, like, pretty cool. But obviously in America, the long, big, straight ones, they can just go on autopilot. You can kill someone at the same time. Right, so where are we at? She's
gone to
in Florida. And,
she gets married.
Oh, God, to the old man.
To the old man, yeah.
And he was quite well off. So you can see what the intention was.
Oh, I say that could be a bit of assumption. Maybe it was true love.
Yeah, maybe.
Until the restraining order 14 days later. Boom, boom.
Yeah, apparently she beat him with his own stick. And then she spent... did she get... Oh, no, a restraining order. And then she
returned to Michigan. She was nicked again in a club. She threw a pool ball at the barman.
Did she?
Yeah.
Christ. And this one I found fascinating was because she was, prostituting herself out. But obviously, I think at this point she was thinking, it's not, I need more money. She turned to armed robbery.
Yeah, that's right.
And this was in 1981 and she was 25. She spent 3 years in prison. And from watching this documentary and the research we've done, she fit in pretty well in prison because she got to know more females properly. Because you think about it, she's used and abused and thrown around like a rag doll her whole life by horrible old men. And she's hanging out with actual women that are probably very similar to her, you know.
Yeah. Although I would have thought, I think one of the researchers we were watching also said that their criminal behaviour in prison would have been more organised than hers. Because hers was quite chaotic.
Oh, yeah, she just did anything and anything, wherever.
She was rash,
Impulsive,
she was rash and impulsive.
Yeah, these other girls were probably like armed robbers.
A bit more organised, I think. Prior to her going to prison, her brother passed away. She was left $10,000 in his life insurance.
And
Was she close with him?
Well, this is the guy that
apparently
abused her. He was 2 years older. His name was Keith.
And she, according to her friend, pretty much her only friend, when she disappeared to Florida, I hadn't seen her for a year or two, and then she came back to his funeral.
She bumped him from there, and she had no idea he was poorly.
Yeah.
And you get the impression that if she'd have known, she may have come back and been his full-time carer.
True, yeah.
Which may have averted all this crazy shit.
It's weird, isn't it, how one little tiny change could have...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very strange. So, at this point, she's still continuously prostituting because that's just her only means of any money.
Yeah, she's getting older.
She's getting older, and she meets Tyra Moore, who's a lesbian. And she starts to question her own sexuality at this point. And these psychologists that we've watched, and they've said that because she's been surrounded by men her whole life, I think she's automatically assumed that this is just what it is. But as soon as she met Tyra, she thought, oh, actually, I think I like this woman, in that way. And she became infatuated with her. And they spent, I think they lived together for 3 years.
Yeah. Eileen said it was the love of her life.
Yeah.
What's her name again?
Tyra Moore.
Tyra said that Elaine... Sorry, I can't even talk now.
It's like BTK.
Eileen,
you were like, TKP.
Yeah, so Eileen was very possessive and
Irene?
jealous.
Was it
Eileen? Eileen was very possessive.
Alina?
And jealous and would become quite violent sometimes.
Yeah. And she would spend the odd few days in jail, probably every few weeks, because she would domestic abuse or whatever, and just out in public, she would get really angry and whatever. Yeah, we see all the mugshots, didn't we, over time, constantly spending little stints in jail. And this Tyra didn't, as far as we're aware. She was just this loving partner, but Eileen would get... And this was, Tyra said, because this was, she was continuously prostituting, doing drugs and alcohol, partying. This crazy like lifestyle on the edge of society, like you said. She started to lose her looks very rapidly because of abusing her body. So prostituting wasn't as much.
It was getting difficult.
And then Tyra said, "Well, we've got no money to spend time with each other. We need money." So she would go out prostituting, couldn't do it as much, but she wanted to stay home a lot. So then Tyra and her would argue. She said, "I want to stay home with you." And she said, "No, we need some fucking money first. Can't pay the rent, And that's why this big rift became. There's a big wedge between them. But then this is where we get to one of a few murder victims.
Yeah.
On behalf of
She'd
Eileen.
be going out and trying to get this money.
Yeah. And as far as Tyra was aware, according to reports, court statements and stuff, that she didn't know about like the first few. It was like the last couple, and they went on the run together. But anyway, the first victim...
Yeah, so the first murder victim was Richard Charles Mallory, age 51, owned an electronics store. And,
Yeah, this is so... He was... so he owned the electronics store, 51. this was in 1989, and Wuornos claimed that Mallory beat, raped, and sodomized her after he drove her to an abandoned area for sexual services. And this is again portrayed in the film, and this is the only scene in the film that it's harrowing. Like, you kind of have to half look away. It's gross. And she obviously didn't get caught for this, but she always claimed it was in self-defense because he did some disgusting things to her. And later it was found out that Mallory, years before, was accused of attempted rape. So, you know, who knows?
He had been shot several times. Oof.
Yeah, so she had what gun was it? The 22?
Yeah, I think it's the 22.
So she'd been shot several times, and 2 bullets to the left lung were found to have been the cause of death, because obviously shot in the lung. Yeah. Ooh. And he dropped dead. And this was in 1989, and this was November 89. So this is now May 19th, 1990, and this is David Andrew Spears. Again, similar age, 47. He'd been shot 6 times by the same pistol. So I think maybe at this point the police are considering a link, because, you know, and it would have been probably, it was because it was was it around the same area? It must have been.
I think they found all the bodies in the same area.
Yeah, so they would have known it was like a notorious prostituting area as well, so they could have linked that up. Like, they're John's picking them up, and then they've coincidentally died in the same way in the same area, you know. So
yeah, and she was getting slapped because later on she was using, you know, future victims' cars and possessions.
Yeah, she'd pick bits off them each way.
Yeah. So
I think after the first victim, which she claimed was self-defense, has obviously proper messed her up even more. And she said afterwards that, you know, they would either begin to rape her, or she thought that they were going to rape her. She got paranoid because of this first guy, and obviously all the shit happened to him when she was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
they've gone to touch her.
That could be real. She could be reliving that early childhood rape trauma.
Yeah, like a granddad coming into her bedroom at night, and this guy tries to touch her. She's gone fuck, grabbed the gun and got panicked, you know.
It is like.
And at this point,
you kind of see it.
As well as that, because of the money, she would obviously nick his money and then go, oh, well, I'll have his car as well, change the plates, whatever, which I think she did.
Yeah.
And then her and Tyra went kind of on the run, place to place, because of what she's done. She can't stay in the same area. So another victim, Charles Edmund Carskadden, age 40, rodeo worker, and this was in 1990. So I think all of this was over 1 year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
November 89.
12 months.
Yeah, literally almost to the day.
Goodness me.
And she killed 7 men, and they were pretty much all in the same way. But along the way, again, she would try and get a job, which couldn't. But each victim was killed in that same way. But we're saying her spree, because this was when she was, you know, a lot older than a lot of other so-called serial killers. You know, why did she snap one day after this guy and go on a spree? This is what I don't understand, because
maybe she knew the game was over, she was going to get caught.
Well, it's like when we said about BTK, you know, towards the end when he's teasing people. Yeah. It's like they almost subconsciously know that, fuck it, we'll do it because my life's over anyway.
Yeah, and they've already kind of experienced the guilt and the shame, because it's happened 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
In for $1 and, you know, I don't know, for a penny, for a pound.
Yeah, like, because she's had that her entire life. She's probably convinced nothing ever good's going to happen to me, so I'm just going to do some horrible shit just because.
Yeah. What's the point?
Exactly.
Every time she's even tried to do anything kind of like straight, it's just been thrown back in her face again.
Yeah, and like we've said, you know, she'd go to a bar, and probably every single man she came across always had a sexual intention. You know, and apart from, I think the landlord of the bar that she went to a lot, and that guy that was the cross-dresser, the gay guy, and like the one female friend, I think that's the only people she ever had. And then the rest of them all used and abused her. But
she was so vulnerable, because that's also, as a kid, they were the only relationship she was used to.
Yeah. So around this time, she would also be in and out of jail for obviously domestic abuse with Tyra, but also car theft, resisting arrest, obstruction of justice, found with guns. So she wasn't really helping herself.
No.
But,
I think it came to a head when she eventually murdered Charles Humphreys because he was a retired US Air Force major. He was a former state child abuse investigator and a former chief of police. And so, all of a sudden his family was thinking, well, he didn't go out and see prostitutes. Not him. He wouldn't do that. He was an upstanding man, but really he was out seeing hookers. Yeah. And I think that was the second to last murder. Yeah. So that, I think, gave the local police and investigators a kick up the arse to go and find out who did this.
Yeah, yeah. It's a shame that stuff like that has to happen.
Yeah.
Just for them to pull their finger out.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It was in the film. Like I mentioned the film again because I consider it pretty spot on. They might have thrown little bits here for whatever effect, but the murder of the retired police chief. There's a bit where she looks for his wallet and finds his badge.
Oh, fuck.
And that's when she's like, oh, shit. And then obviously she's killed one or whatever more afterwards. But at this point, this is when they panic. And I think they stole someone else's car at the time. And at one point, I think they were arguing and she went off the road and smashed their car in front of some old couple's house. And they're there trying to gather all their belongings out and do a runner. But these old couple are like just staring at them going, what the fuck's going on here? Like, so this is their panic stage. Because of the police officer ex-police officer they killed. So they've just gone erratic after this point, and they've got no money still, because they're spending it at the same time. Even if they're not spending it on booze and drugs, they've got to pay rent. They've got the shitty motels that they were staying in. Yeah. So they're constantly, it's like hand to mouth constantly. So she has to prostitute herself out, but then she's killing them. Then she's panicking. Then she's stealing a car, which is a murder victim's car.
Yeah, and so it's repeating the behaviour again and again.
Yeah, erratic again. She didn't have a plan. She's just gone with it and gone, well... Yeah. I'll see if he's got some money and I'll kill him. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And now the police are going to be looking for her, so much.
Yeah, and I think they were going state to state, like a lot of people did. It's just common sense, really. But she, her and Tyra, according to Tyra, she would say that she wasn't aware of the extent of what was going on. But she knew that, like, maybe something serious happened. Yeah. Because she was coming home.
You've got to be a bit suspicious.
Exactly, yeah. And that there was a conflict of, like, of opinion because they were saying that she was on the run after killing 5 guys and she's coming home with, like, $1,000 with a nice brand new car and, like, some new clothes and stuff, and it's like, where did this come from? She's like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh, yeah. I just bloke.
Oh, you got that for cheap, It's like, no, she knew something, but... Yeah, I think she knew something anyway. Because especially if they were so-called soulmates and love, I think Aileen would have one night got pissed probably and said, yeah, I killed this guy. He was a fucking arsehole or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so this was all by the time she was... She was only like in her 20s. Yeah, in the 80s. And all the men... funnily enough, were all around between 47 and 60 something. So maybe that's
No, she'd have been in her 30s. I think she'd been about 35.
Oh, okay. But the victims, I found it was interesting. They were all 50 plus almost.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a granddad thing.
Bloody hell.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not an 18-year-old boy.
I think it shows a lot of premeditation because, going for kind of men that are a bit older, a bit, I don't know, maybe they're just softer targets.
Mm. Or it was the thing, like I said before, they've started to touch her, and because they're old, around the same granddad age, maybe she's flashbacked.
Mate, that is so viable. I mean, even though she may have...
It's possible, isn't it?
Had hundreds of sexual encounters as a prostitute, but that is, that is possible. That is very possible.
Because I think all the...
And even if it wasn't happening, and she changed and got violent. Oh, how can I express this? Maybe deep down somewhere inside her, with every sexual encounter she had, it reinforced things that she believed about herself regarding her childhood and shame. Yeah. Because it's all bloody buried in there.
Yeah, and she's probably gone, no, fuck you, I'm in control now. This is my time, which I think it happens with a lot of them. Especially when, it's sexual abuse from a child.
Yeah.
Well, like we've said before, a child could be sexually abused once by a family friend, and that can mess you up forever.
Fucking absolutely.
And you think all this stuff.
And that's just one of the abuses. You've got emotional abuse, you've got neglect, you've got...
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be sexual.
There's like 6 or 7 different kinds of abuse, and it's all they're all awful.
Like, I find it fascinating. You've said before, my mum said before, like, similar job to yours, where you could have one person who's had something horrific done to them, and they're like horrible. They're violent. They don't abide by the rules. Just everything that you don't want in someone, they do, and they stay late at night. And the police are taking them home. Then on the flip side, you've got another kid who's pretty much in the same boat, but is really lovely.
Well, it's weird, man.
It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would say would be they're all lovely.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's not their fault, is it? Yeah. I'm not saying they are horrible.
No,
it's because of what's happened to them.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of the things such as sexually harmful behaviour or violence or aggression, it is often a very famous expression is its behaviour as communication, because these young people, they can't verbalise their feelings. They find it hard to trust another adult, let alone talk to an adult.
Yeah.
And so where do those feelings go? Well, they show themselves in behaviour. And often that behaviour can be very, very
I remember you
challenging.
saying this. Yeah. Didn't you say, some of them would act out, and then when they calm down, they would be able to get a hug out of it.
Yeah, because some of these kids in care, they might not have been hugged for 2 or 3 years. And then they might not have heard anybody say, I love you for 3 or 4 years. But how some kids, and this is not a generalisation, but sometimes how kids in care learn to have touch or tactile touch is to be held in restraint. I mean, up until a few years ago, it was very hard to just go and give a kid a hug. I think care over the last kind of decades developed where, you're not, it's easier now as a carer, as a residential children's worker, to hug a kid. But 10, 20 years ago, it was, it's really frowned upon.
Well, of course,
because
especially.
Did
you say it has to be child-led?
Yeah, it's got to be child-led.
You can't just go around going, let's all have a hug, kids.
Yeah, the child's kind of got to come to you for the hug.
Yeah.
And there's just lots of kind of restorative practice.
See, I love all these words. I love hearing about this.
Kind of used around it, especially in language. When you're working with kids that have gone through childhood trauma, a lot of your language is restorative, and it's very non-accusory, non-judgmental.
It's hard. It's like eggshells, really, isn't it? Obviously,
accepting
you courses or whatever you've done, and you know about it very evidently. But there'll be some people that'll just go, right, get to bed.
Oh, mate,
and you can't say that to someone who's got problems.
Yeah, and then it all kicks off.
Because I
could name so many examples of that where if you'd have just rephrased a sentence a little bit, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, even just a couple of words different.
Totally, you've got to really think about the way you've put your sentence together. Yesterday,
the door's going. I heard a knock.
Is that Frankie?
She wouldn't knock her own door, would she?
No.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Still. Sorry.
I
thought it was them because it was a...
Yeah, they're wise.
Yeah, so...
Where were we? Yeah, talking about... Yeah.
So tell me more about, the certain practices, you said, restorative
practice. So what you're trying to do is you're letting the kid know via the language you use that they feel 4 things: safe, secure, valued, and important. And
because that's what they are anyway.
Well, that's what one should hope.
Valued and important.
Yeah, valued, important, safe and secure.
That's the whole reason they're there. You can't be bossing them about all the time. That's common sense to me.
No, because care is, by its very nature, oppressive.
Care.
But social care can be oppressive. But a lot of these kids come from situations where they have felt unsafe.
Yeah.
And they are scared and they don't feel secure. They don't feel valued. It could be neglect. Mums and dads are an alcoholic or on drugs, and they don't feel valued because mum and dad don't put them first or second. They're not even third or fourth on the list. And so when a kid comes into a care environment, when you're trying to slowly embed into them are those 4 things: that they are safe, they are secure, they are valued, and they are important. And
I remember you telling me that, like, you know, in certain circumstances where the one child would kick off naturally, and the other one would be really scared.
it can happen, yeah.
So it's a ripple effect as well. It's not
absolutely.
It's not just that kid going through that stuff again. It's knock-on effect with this other kid.
Yeah, and the other
who
kid
felt safe for a while, but now feels unsafe.
could well do if you have a change in a care setting and the dynamic shifts, and you know it's been very.
If they're smashing stuff up,
Yeah.
because that would remind them of home.
Could remind him of home when Dad smashed stuff up. It could remind him of domestic violence. It could remind him of many things. Even if you're at work and you're talking to a colleague, oh, I went down the pub last night and had a couple of pints, and imagine a kid hears that, then there's a little chance that kid's dad might be an alcoholic, and when that dad's got home from the pub and he was drunk, he hit him. And you might be saying stuff in a care environment that you don't actually think has an impact, but it does have an impact.
Because it would remind them.
It reminds them, oh, when my dad drunk, he hit me. Or when my dad drunk, he hit my mum. I wonder if Kev drinks, I wonder if Kev's going to hit me.
Yeah.
And it's just things that kids feel, you know. And sometimes, again, it's transparent and don't even know they're thinking this, but it can make them feel anxious. They might not know why they feel anxious, but you're increasing their anxiety.
Well, it's even like, you know, people with sort of lesser versions of trauma. You know, like just, I don't know, your mum and dad get divorced, because that could hit someone really hard.
Yeah, totally.
And then years later, you go to your friend's house and they're having a meal with their mum and dad. That might make you feel anxious because you've never experienced it before.
Yeah.
You know, little things like that. So that's
might
just
make you feel sad because you've never experienced it. It might remind you that your mum and dad don't love each other.
Yeah, and then people
you might be thinking, is it my fault mum and dad got divorced? Is it because I didn't love mum enough, or I didn't love dad enough? And you're trying to, as a kid, you're trying to work through all these really hectic emotions.
Yeah.
And if you suffered from like trauma or abuse, it makes it even harder to work through those emotions because trauma and abuse affects early brain development, and it stifles your ability to create these neuro pathways, and I
just find it absolutely fascinating.
It's fascinating, man.
Like, obviously it's hard work, like you've told me, very hard work, but do you you know, does obviously the reward outweigh the stress?
Yeah,
Is that a hard
definitely.
question,
Yeah,
or?
absolutely. Yeah,
Because
sometimes
obviously you wouldn't do it, really, I suppose, if it was that
sometimes you have
bad.
really stressful days at work. I mean, really stressful days at work, and sometimes you have like absolutely awesome days at work.
Do you find it better that, you know, every day's different? You know, would you rather it be calm all the time?
I just like it when you have good outcomes for children.
Yeah.
It's all about positive
No matter
outcomes
the way
for
around
kids.
it, yeah.
No matter if they're really hectic or they're great. Now, ultimately, you want those kids to have positive outcomes. You want them to, you know, you want to give them resilience to their trauma, and you want to kind of re-nurture that experience of, well, I do feel valued. I am loved. I am secure. I am safe. And once these kids have got that foundation, they can go on to do really amazing things. Their school will improve. Their attendance will improve.
Yeah.
Their kind of cognitive abilities and capabilities will improve. It might be that they've got, rather than sitting in their room scared all the time, now they're pursuing their interests and they're playing the guitar and they're learning things.
Because otherwise...
And, you know, and those are the things that you hope that every young person has. You know, and that's what you're trying to do in that kind of residential care setting. So, like with Aileen, for example.
Back to Aileen.
You know, all the things that she did not get, she never felt safe. She never felt secure. She never had valued.
Well, this,
she never felt valued.
Like, you're the expert, but just even just one thing that happened to her could have messed her up forever.
Oh, man, yeah.
But she had nothing.
All the things in the abuse and the beatings and the... Yeah, it's just...
And you know what? They probably didn't even mention half of that in the court case. It would have all been about the murders.
Totally. And she tried to kill herself about 6-7 times.
That was it. Yeah, she shot herself in the stomach.
So
once.
imagine that. You know, and okay, maybe she didn't kill herself. She tried 6 times, but so therefore they are cries for help.
Cries for help. Yeah, exactly.
You know, she is like, I don't know how to communicate how I feel. I'm in trauma.
Yeah.
Somebody please help me.
And especially back then, you know, a prostitute would go into somewhere and go, I need some help or this. They would just look at her and go, bottom of the pile.
Prostitute, yeah, white trash.
Yeah. exactly.
Oh yeah, I know her. My sister knows her. She's been fucking people since she was 13.
Yeah.
And kids don't fuck people. Kids get abused.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if a child is under 16, and engaged in non-consensual sex, that is rape.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. I don't believe there's promiscuous 15-year-olds. There's kids that are being abused, or there's kids that have been groomed for sexual exploitation.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I don't think I've seen the court case bits. I think we've watched loads of them. And I don't think any of it says when she was 14, she got raped by the local paedophile and had a child, and even that would set you off into the wrong path,
Yeah.
And everyone in her entire community hated her, thought she was a piece of shit.
Scorned.
And psychologists, even back then, would know that would obviously get her on the wrong path, and likely that she would have gone, mental health issues.
But the professionals she would have dealt with wouldn't have been social workers or counsellors or child psychologists. They'd have been a local police. You know what I mean? And the local judge probably, and the local sheriff. And those people, back then, the training, the knowledge just wasn't really available.
And she said as well in one of her last interviews with Nick Broomfield that when she was kind of whispering, thinking, I think she thought the camera was off, and she was saying like, it's all hand over fist, they just want to get rid of me type thing. And I think there's a bit of truth in that as well. Yeah. They haven't gone out of their way to help her to see if she did kill these guys on purpose. They've gone, well, she looks like a killer. Everyone thinks she's a killer. Let's just kill her too, and we'll look like heroes and stuff, and just do the bog standard low-level stuff to make it look like we're trying to do something about it, with psychologists or whatever they
use.
In
prison as well, she was experiencing paranoia. She was saying that they've got things in my food and radio waves affecting my brain, and now her dad had paranoid schizophrenia.
He did, yeah.
That is, she is displaying signs of undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenia.
So she's open to it.
Totally. She's genetically, predisposed to.
Yeah.
See it.
So from the womb, she didn't have a choice, did she? Well, she didn't have a chance.
Poor woman.
I know, exactly. And I don't think people tend to use poor woman in the same way as using her name, same line as sentence as her name, because Aileen Wuornos, first American serial killer, killed 6 men.
Damsel of death.
Yeah, you're like, oh God, and you got all the media,
Obviously,
it
is really, really distressing murder. And the victims had families and loved ones,
I think we need to we need to kind of stress that we're not saying poor her. It's we
kind of are saying poor her.
Yeah, but kind of we're saying it's not. She did wrong, horrible things, and the victims obviously it's horrific, and she shouldn't have done it, obviously. But we're just saying that it wasn't all just her going, I'm going to kill people and get a bit of money out of it.
No,
there's a lot
she was
more to
also
it.
like, I would say, and this has been said on some of this material we've watched, that she was a victim of circumstance. And her nurture was appalling.
Yeah.
And she
well, the interviews with her in prison. 1 minute she's actually really lovely. The next minute she's screaming and shouting. She's looking into the camera, going like, "You're all fucking this. You're all that. You're all this. I hate everyone. You're all going to die in hell." And then she's like, "Oh, sorry about that." And
this may have been something she's done all of her life as a way of being able to not cope with trauma.
Yeah,
just goes rather than sometimes often adults who are, who have got how can I? I'm trying to word a way of saying it, that have not got childhood trauma. You can regulate emotions, you can stay calm, you can cope when you're being challenged.
Yeah,
but some people that find it really hard to.
That's just an easy way out for them, isn't it?
Just go straight. You can go straight to being heightened.
Yeah.
So
a little bit of conflict. I'll go, fuck you, punch him and walk out. Rather
because a lot of those people are already semi-heightened all the time.
Yeah,
whereas our kind of resting is, our kind of chilled and relaxed. People that are anxious through trauma and traumatic experiences are often
ready to blow, really.
Kind of ready to blow all the time. You just don't know it. They're kind of used to concealing it and hiding it to a certain extent.
Yeah, you could see them just, go to the bar.
Which is her. Which is totally...
Yeah. Well, I think Charlize Theron does, because she won an award, there was an Oscar or something for it, and she deserved it because she, as far as I can see, interviews with the real Aileen, she was the same in that, where she seemed really nice and had good intent and was trying to do something about her life, but then as soon as anything happened that was a little bit too close to her, she would just blow up, and she'd end up hitting someone, or like you said, throwing a snooker ball at someone's face, and you know,
straight to
glassing
rage.
people, straight to rage straight away.
Straight to rage.
And that's why her and Tyra towards the end. That's why Tyra wasn't like that, as far as I can see, and that caused a rift between them. And then she was going off doing these crazy things, and then they were just the conflict, and then the police were honing in on them, and she was acting out all the time. It's because of her erratic behaviour, because of her trauma. That was her downfall. You know, obviously the murders, and then getting caught. You know, because she wasn't a composed person.
Just chaotic, like her mind, really, like her.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, acting her mind out, basically. So in July, on July the 4th, 1990. Wuornos and Tyra abandoned Peter Sims, one of the victims' cars, after they were involved in an accident. And I think this is one I was talking about in front of this old couple's house. So they abandoned it, shit themselves, thinking, what are we going to do now? And eventually, this was when the police were really, really close to getting her, but they couldn't find her. And what they did was go to pawn shops, because they were looking for certain things that were missing out of the victims' cars.
Oof.
And they found pretty much all of them.
Oof.
And they found Wuornos's prints were all over him, because she already had a shitload of bloody convictions.
She'd been arrested loads of times already.
So they were like, boom, we know who she is, we're going to get her. And she would always go to this bar called The Last Resort.
God, yeah, that bar looks grim.
Yes, it does.
I've seen pictures of that place. It looks grim.
Yeah, it's horrible there. So that's where they found her, because they knew where they'd ask around where she used to go. They went there and they found her. And she got arrested. This was January the 9th, 1991, and this was after 7 men she'd murdered. And I think Tyra eventually turned against her, because she didn't obviously want to go to prison.
She made some kind of deal, didn't she, where she...
Movie.
Well,
I'm thinking... sorry, not that. Yeah, with the police.
Yeah, with the police. You know, don't give me any charges and I'll tell you everything you want to know.
Yeah. 3 days later, she confessed to the murders. She claimed the men had tried to rape her, and she killed them in self-defense. November 91, she was legally adopted by 44-year-old Aileen Wuornos, who saw her photo in the newspaper. And we saw her in that documentary, remember?
Yeah.
Which we didn't know, that you could adopt someone at any age.
Yeah, in America you can adopt people.
Because I just thought it was children until you got...
Yeah, you saw that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so she got legally adopted, which was
By
a bit too
Christian,
late.
Born
Yeah,
again
that's
Christian.
it. Yeah, a bit too late. But she came and saw her, and tried to console her and stuff. But a bit too late. So she was now in custody, and her whole defence was self-defence.
Yeah.
But no one was buying it.
No,
at all.
And there was all those Nick Broomfield. I mean, there was a lot of great interviews with her at this point, isn't there?
I would recommend watching them.
Yeah, there's loads of material there, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, because he did a couple, didn't he? I think
He's a great interviewer.
Yeah, he was like the old school Louis Theroux, wasn't he? Similar. But he interviewed her. Don't quote me on this, but very, very, very close to just before she was executed. So he was the last person to interview her officially on camera. And she seemed, well, she didn't seem fine, but she seemed like, I just want to go now.
Yeah, I just want to die now.
Yeah. And her friend said, didn't she, that she stopped. She went back on her story and just said, "Nah, I just killed them all."
Yeah.
Just so she could hurry up the sentencing.
Yeah, she didn't want to be on death row anymore.
Because she said to Nick Broomfield, when she thought the camera was off, that he goes, "Was it self-defense?" And she said, "Yeah, it was self-defense. But I just want to go." Something like that anyway, she said. But she said it was self-defense, but she didn't give a shit anymore. She just wanted to go. Which, if I was there, I'd probably do the same.
Yeah, I still don't know whether I believe her or not, because she was a bit of a...
This is another thing, yeah. For the victims, we're not saying we believe everything she says, but just going back to her trauma, it just kind of makes sense that...
Yeah, it does make sense, and it could well be true.
Yeah.
But,
because she could have said, "Oh, it was in self-defense." She tried her hardest to get off, but after she eventually got, I think it was all 7 death sentences. So she wasn't getting anywhere. So that's probably when she went, "Yeah, I did it."
She even turned down her last meal.
She did. A cup of coffee she had, wasn't it? Yeah.
She even turned
I wouldn't have
coffee. That was it.
Yeah, she turned down. She's gonna have up to $20 spent on you for your last meal. And she refused it.
I'm talking the wrong side of the mic here. What?
No way.
What?
Yeah. So death row wise, if you would you have a last meal? Because I know obviously you can't imagine being there, how you'd feel at the time, but I've always thought I'd either eat all the nicest shit that I could ever think of for that money, or I'd have nothing, because you just wouldn't have an appetite. Really?
I don't know. Apparently, if
someone had a gun to your head and said, "Do you fancy a McDonald's first?" You'd be like, "No, just fucking kill." You know what I mean?
What I've always thought, they'll go out and they'll get you.
But I mean, some people, I'd be that petrified that I just feel sick.
I'd want to eat, but you don't even get a real KFC or a real Big Mac. They make it in the prison kitchen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you do say I want a KFC, they're just getting this really crap version of it made in the kitchen. Because I watched this documentary. I don't know how, this was an old documentary probably from 15 years ago. I don't know how true it was. Maybe before then they used to go out and buy it, but I think budgeting wise, because I think they used to have,
they're probably 60 miles from a McDonald's.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Cost them more in petrol, like. Yeah. But I think they used to, back in the day, say you could have whatever you want, because who cares?
Well, I think these days McDonald's sponsors all the prisons in the States. They've got one built into each prison.
Oh my God.
I'm making this up completely.
Oh my God, I can't kind of believe that.
I was half like, what?
Yeah, I could kind of believe that.
They go for the drive-through, just queue up, like. Yeah, so I think back in the day they used to have a policy where they just went, because they didn't execute all the time, so it wasn't like they were spending money, loads of dollars, hundreds of dollars every day. But I think they got to a point where the government or the prisons or whatever said, no, we've got $20 limit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I can't imagine them being like down the road from like a food retail park. Like
I'd have 45 Mars bars.
Yeah,
one from each state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
deep fried.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think I haven't covered that in my TikTok videos yet, but last meals. It's a good one, because some of them. Yeah, it's a good question. I've always thought about this. What would you have?
Oh mate, that's tough. Let me have a little think. Off the cuff, just quickly, I would have been quite happy with 2 double Whoppers with cheese and a Burger King meal, but it's not sophisticated enough, really. It should be
Lobster.
It should be more. I mean, lobster. Oh God, Tex-Mex, maybe just loads of really nice guacamole.
Yeah.
I fucking love guacamole.
Like proper fast foods.
Oh my God, but good Tex-Mex, really.
Yeah.
But I'd want like massive bowl of guacamole with it.
Yeah.
Delicious. Jake,
Just
what would you
double
want?
up on everything there.
It's just so delicious.
Yeah, what would you have?
Probably barbecue ribs, potato salad.
Nice.
Yeah.
What from?
Where's
that? Where would you get it from? Or
there's
any old barbecue?
Well, there's a place back in California that does the world. I mean.
Oh yeah, we know that, don't we, Tom?
You know that place.
Oh, we've been there.
It's like an old mom and pop.
Oh, that one.
African American.
Oh, at the corner.
Oh, right.
It's unreal, like soul food almost.
Oh,
Nice.
I bet it's delicious.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh God.
I've thought about it before, because I've had conversations like this before. Probably like a Chinese-y type, like tapasy, noodles, rice, like a bit
of everything.
just like prawns in sauce, and they do like nice fried chicken sometimes in like just takeaways. Maybe just like a little buffet of Chinese-y stuff. Or
I'm hungry now.
my mum's. Hi, mum. My mum's. She used to make as a kid. She did it recently actually for me. Like Cajun chicken, she makes her own like seasoning, whatever, in wraps, and she makes her own like certain sauce, which every time I eat it, it just reminds me of being a kid. So I think I'd probably have that as like my last comfort meal, or that Chinese thing. That's what I've thought about before. What about a drink?
I was thinking, I like
Beer.
a good pizza after I've had a few pints.
Yeah.
Could you get like them to give you just like a box of beers and then, have a pizza after that? Because I love a good drunken pizza. Fantastic.
Because I've looked this up before. I think some of them I've read about have had just like a beer.
Yeah.
Because also, especially if you're getting the lethal injection, I don't know what if you're shit faced. I don't know.
Maybe it's better.
Yeah.
I don't see. Yeah.
Yeah, Christ.
Yeah.
You're gonna die anyway, so you might as well die.
A bucket full of spuds.
But I think you're allowed, or were allowed, a beer.
I mean, ultimately, the people that are getting the death penalty are the worst of the worst, so they're not going to, cater to their...
Exactly. They're not going to go, I'm going to go to the local store and buy you a nice bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They might go, you can have a shot of whiskey, or whatever, something bare minimum.
Yeah.
Because imagine if the press found out, they'd look like, right,
totally.
Stupid. Maybe I shouldn't say but,
Cut that out.
yeah, I think they'd look very stupid. That'll do. Yeah, there's one guy called Jeffrey Allen Barney. He had just Frosted Flakes in a massive mixing bowl.
Maybe that's
good. Maybe that's a childhood.
It's got to be
thing as
cold
well.
milk. It's got to be
Ice cold milk
with cereal.
You don't call them frosty. What do you call them here? Frosties.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah.
Johnny Frank Garrett just had a bowl of ice cream. Oh, this bloody hell! This is a good one. William Prince Davis had 6 cans of Coca-Cola. I think they're refried beans, spicy barbecue chips, a bowl of grated cheese, a few bits of fried chicken, and some
bowl of grated cheese.
Yeah, and some like baps that you put some.
That looks
like,
good.
Burger buns.
Again, sorry?
Huh?
Who was that?
He was called William Prince Davis, and apparently he was executed in '99, and he killed a few people, I think. But yeah, three wings, three like chicken drumsticks, some burger buns, refried beans, some chips, crisps, and a big pack of Coca-Cola. So they gave him 6, and this was in 1999.
So they're not going to like Michelin star restaurants.
Yeah.
Just...
Flew in Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
There you go. Gerald Lee Mitchell.
Jamie Oliver.
Was he? Gerald Lee. Yeah. Gordon Ramsay does a new YouTube video. These are my death row last meals.
Oh mate, yeah.
Gerald Lee Mitchell had a pack of Jolly Rancher hard candy.
Maybe you could, like, if you got $20 of some kind of food, you could eat yourself to death.
Look at this one. Yeah.
What could it be?
Yeah. Or, like, I don't know, eat something that gives you an allergy and then you die.
Yeah.
Because peanuts.
Yeah. Right, Robert Anthony Madden asked that his final meal be given to a homeless person, and the request was denied.
Oh, wanker.
What is that about? They could just walk 10 yards outside the prison and just give it to someone.
Yeah, and he was thinking, my God, I've got a guaranteed way to get into heaven, and you fucked it up.
Yeah, my last try.
I thought I'd had it sus there and gave him a last meal. All right, it's at the gates, that's it. St. Michael's going to let me in.
I think, let's try and find, because Death Row inmate, was it like Ted Bundy and stuff. He declined a meal, so he was given the traditional last meal. Oh, so they, what did they?
What's a traditional last meal?
He declined a special meal, so he was given the traditional last meal, which consisted of steak cooked medium rare, eggs over easy, hash browns, toasted butter, and jelly, milk and juice.
That's what Jesus had.
Jesus had, of course it is.
Yeah. Traditional last meal.
However, he didn't touch any of his food. But with jelly, these bloody Americans.
Jam.
Mate, what's that?
Jelly is Jell-O for us.
Sometimes nice with meat.
But wouldn't you say like peanut butter and Jello then? Or do you say
peanut butter and jelly?
But what's the difference between Jello and jelly?
Your jellies are Jell-O. Jello's the jiggly. Jelly's the jiggly.
But what's
thing.
in
dessert?
So what's peanut butter and jelly for you?
Jelly is jam.
Oh, right. I was thinking having jelly. Our jelly in a peanut butter sandwich. That's gross. That's really gross.
Yeah.
Well, every day's a school day, Kev.
I like jelly when you make it with vodka.
Yeah.
Jello shots.
Just go, suck them right down.
That's so good.
So this is now at the point where she's on death row and it's getting close to her actual execution date. Mm-hmm. And Dill, stop playing with that ball. Wait. In your bed. In your bed. In your bed. Sorry. So now she's getting close to her execution date, and this was in a 2001 petition to the Florida Supreme Court. She stated her intention to dismiss her legal counsel and terminate all pending appeals. I killed those men, she wrote. Robbed them as cold as ice, and I'd do it again too. There's no chance in keeping me alive or anything because I will kill again. I have hate crawling through my system. I'm so sick of hearing this she's crazy stuff. I've been evaluated so many times. I'm competent, sane, and I'm trying to tell the truth. I'm one who seriously hates human life, and I would kill again. So that was her last sort of statement to the masses.
I am one who seriously hates human life. I mean, you can see why. I mean, that's
not a lie, is it?
Yeah, if she had you can see why, because she would have felt that human life hates her, I think.
Yeah, and then So this is another. So because she always used to flip around with it, if it's self-defense or cold-blooded. And then in the weeks before execution, she gave, this is in Nick Broomfield, and she would say at one point, "You sabotaged my ass. Society and the cops and the system. A raped woman got executed and was used for books and movies and shit." So she's basically saying, you've used and abused me since day one up until my very death.
Yeah. And she was politically used because Jeb Bush was he's running for governor in Florida at the time. Oh. And he's law and order stuff.
This is, it was like Ted Bundy with that guy, when he was on camera handing him that, bit of paperwork, can't remember what it was, but basically saying, you are being convicted of these murders. And it was in front of cameras, and Ted's going, "Oh, yeah, great for your election
campaign."
Yeah, absolutely. So they're not, then they take the bloody, the gold star for it.
They take the credit.
They go right in at the end.
Falls.
Yeah.
Today we have apprehended.
Yeah.
And the governor will be saying it when he was.
Yeah, and he's probably not even heard of him until that day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, this is literally around her execution and death. And before this, she was talking to Nick Broomfield, which anyone who can YouTube, and me and Kev love him, they're really good. And he's done more on other people. So Wuornos eventually was executed by lethal injection on October the 9th, 2002. As we were saying before about last meals, because I said, I wouldn't want one, maybe. She declined a last meal, which could have been anything under $20, but she opted for a cup of coffee instead. Her last words were actually these. These were her very, very last words. "Yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. June the 6th, like the movie. Big mothership and all. I'll be back. I'll be back." She died at 9:47 a.m. She was the second woman in Florida and the 10th in the US to be executed since the 1976 United States Supreme Court decision restoring capital punishment. There we go. So that's nuts.
That is.
Yeah, and like we saw in the documentary, so her ashes were given to her friend, her only friend, wasn't it?
Yeah, that girl that actually stood by her side all of her life. Fair play.
And her ashes were scattered beneath a tree in her native Michigan by her childhood friend. Her name was Dawn Botkins. And this is a cool thing to end on, isn't it? With the Natalie Merchant thing, the singer.
Yeah, Natalie Merchant. Well, I came across Natalie Merchant on a Billy Bragg album.
I'd never heard of her.
Yeah, she sings this beautiful, beautiful ballad on an album by Billy Bragg and Wilco.
Oh yeah,
called Mermaid Avenue. It's about the writings and music of Woody Guthrie.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So I like Woody Guthrie.
Yeah, so Billy Bragg was gifted a book of notes on lyrics by the daughter or widow of Woody Guthrie, and him and Wilco got together.
Collaborated.
And worked on this because Wilco's left-wing American band, Billy Bragg's a left-wing UK artist, and Natalie Merchant guest on this album. She sings this beautiful song. However, the song that was on this documentary
was it called Carnival?
Was from one of Natalie Merchant's albums.
Yeah, and Merchant actually found out about this because she wanted it played at a funeral, Eileen's funeral. She found out about it, and she gave permission to use the song in the closing credits also of Nick Broomfield's documentary, Aileen, The Life and Death of a Serial Killer. And this is cool, because Merchant said later on, she said, "I gave permission for the use of the song at the funeral as well," and she said, "It's very odd to think of the places where my music can go once it leaves my hands. If it gave us some solace, I have to be grateful."
Yeah, see, that's an interesting statement.
Nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a literary theory argument. It's Russian, and it's called Death of the Author. So when somebody finishes their book, they put the last full stop on it, or finishes a song for that matter, and they pass it on, its meaning changes, because whoever you are, if you're reading a text or listening to a song, your interpretation will never be the same as the author's intended.
So it's become everyone's.
So everyone reads that.
They say that about music as well, didn't I? I've heard that.
Everybody hears it in a different way.
That's very interesting.
But yeah, if you Google death of an author, you'll find some really interesting essays on it.
Yeah, because I've found, I'm a big Nirvana fan, and I've seen interviews with, there was one MTV where Nirvana are sat there, and they play them a tape of them going around a college and giving them their new album and saying, "Come back tomorrow and let us know what you think." And every single one had a completely different opinion. They were like, oh, I think they're just catchy and they're this, that, the other, and it's more raw than the last one. And then some people go, oh, his lyrics mean about death and all this. And Kurt's going, I have no idea what he's talking about. It doesn't mean that whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? So that's completely, it's true, isn't it? That's
it's
nuts.
fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I wish I could be really clever and remember the guy's name that invented the phrase.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, Russian guy.
Anyway, so we'll end on this really because I think it's awesome. Broomfield later speculated on Wuornos' state of mind and motives because obviously he was probably, well, he's the last person to see her almost.
Yeah, and she totally confided in him, didn't she?
Yeah, she liked him,
really
yeah.
did.
Because he's very neutral, isn't he? Anyway, he's good at what he does. He said, I think this anger developed inside of her and she was working as a prostitute. I think she had a lot of awful encounters on the road and I think this anger just spilled out from inside of her. It's basically what we were saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she finally exploded.
She's constantly re-traumatised.
Yeah. She'd
Without
have a little,
knowing it, really.
Like with Tyra, she'd probably have a really lovely time with her for a while. Then she'd go and prostitute herself out and it'd all come back.
At massive risk.
Yeah. And he said, she finally exploded into incredible violence. That was her way of surviving. I think Aileen really believed that she killed in self-defense. I think someone who's deeply psychotic can't really tell the difference between something that is life-threatening and something that is a minor disagreement, that you could say something that she didn't agree with. She would get into a screaming black temper about it. And if I think that's what caused these things to happen, and at the same time, when she wasn't in those extreme moods, there was an incredible humanity to her.
Wow.
I thought that statement was brilliant. But yeah, so she was executed 2002. And yeah, up until that point, she did say self-defense, but who knows? And this is the thing. And obviously, it was horrible what she did, and you know it shouldn't have happened. But we would like to have. We just like to concentrate on the because I don't think a lot of people do. We've said this before. You know, when we did BTK, we didn't really find anything on him apart from the bog standard.
There's very little to find about the early childhood, wasn't there?
Because a lot of people don't really want to hear about it. They want to hear the gruesome details.
Yeah, however, with her, there is quite a lot of material about her early childhood, and it is all sickening, really.
Yeah, and that's why when we were talking about it originally, a few weeks ago, we were like, we have to do this about her.
Yeah,
because it's interesting, especially with your...
And focus on the childhood as well.
Yeah, with your profession as well. It makes it even more deeper and... Yeah, so anyway... I think we'll wrap that up. What do you reckon?
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Just to let you know, I will be uploading stuff on YouTube. So if you just type in Dead Stuff True Crime, and yeah, TikTok as well, and Instagram. I put stuff on Instagram almost every day. And the next podcast should be very soon.
What's the email?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's deadstuffpodcast@gmail.com. So send us questions, suggestions, anything you want, really, and we'll look through them, have a chat, and it might feature on the next one, and we can chat about that.
And thank you very much, Jake.
Yeah, cheers, Jake.
Cheers.
Yeah, Jake does all the work. We just talk about a load of bollocks, don't we, really?
Yeah, and he's got a working printer.
Yeah, he's got a printer.
I knew there's a reason why you brought me on board.
And 2 mic stands.
Right, you still have two.
Yeah, I think we nicked them.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.